Get here. So we will start within, at most, 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Eugene, September 20. Let me retake that. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Eugene, September 12th, 2025 program. Can we bring Cahoots back? The future of mobile crisis services in Eugene. My name is Thomas Hura. I serve as president of City Club, and I'm pleased to welcome you to another of the many forums we've held since 1990 in the name of our mission to build community vision through open inquiry. City Club is lucky to be a trusted, open, and independent voice for Eugene area community members to be heard. And as a lifelong Eugenian, I dare say the community is lucky to have the City Club in return. And to hear from our program guests and questions from the audience, whether here in the beautiful Wow Hall, online, or over the radio. We believe these kinds of gatherings around critical community topics strengthen our understanding of one another and ultimately our ability to support the community building work in so many sectors of Eugene. In today's fractured information landscape, we want to be a space where you can participate in unearthing, disseminating, and sharing relevant information in conversation together. We would love for you to browse our past programs at cityclubofeugene.org or our YouTube or Facebook. Do consider becoming a member if you'd like to support our work as the only city club in Oregon that meets weekly. There are many ways to support and collaborate with us, and I'd like to thank our Platinum and Diamond community sponsors. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. Get more information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to the City of Eugene and to Lane County for their generous support as well. And a special acknowledgement of our most recent Sapphire sponsor, Summit Bank. We're proud to do our banking at Summit, and we're grateful for the contributions of Summit's employees to our club and community. A quick reminder, please silence all cell phones in the hall. This is a program I'm very much looking forward to because on a personal level, my father was unhoused for about a decade during my youth, and in my young adult life, I also experienced homelessness and mental health challenges. So it's not as though we needed to further impress upon most of you the unmet need for mobile crisis services. But with that, I proudly turn the mic over to the coordinator of today's program, Fabio Andrade.
Thank you, Thomas, and thanks everyone for being here for our program on the future of Cahoots, bringing mobile crisis services back to Eugene. Cahoots stands for Crisis Assistance Helping Out on the Streets. It is a nationally recognized response program founded through a long-standing partnership between the City of Eugene and White Bird Clinic. Last April, White Bird Clinic reduced Cahoots service hours due to lack of financial capacity to sustain full operations. Shortly after, the City of Eugene and White Bird announced the end of their contract. Since then, calls for mobile mental health crises have been directed to mobile crisis services of Lane County. Today, we are going to hear from three speakers. Jacob True, with Friends of Cahoots, will talk about community reactions to the end of the services in Eugene and about their advocacy for restoring it as soon as possible. Laurel Lizovskis will discuss the difference between the different kinds of mobile crisis services that can be offered to the community. And we are going to close with Dandy Kolauer, a former employee Cahoots, explaining how some former employees of White Bird Clinic and the Cahoots program have created a new nonprofit, Willamette Valley Crisis Care, and their efforts to restore mobile crisis services in Eugene. After the presentation, we have a short break, and then we return for the Q&A. We have U of O professor Nathan Burton asking the first question, and we hope you all participate. And with that, I invite our speakers to talk to us on this very important topic. Thank you.
Hello there. I'm Jacob True, and I'm a public safety advocate and founder of Friends of Cahoots, a group of folks dedicated to supporting Cahoots-style alternative response. Cahoots started here in Eugene 35 years ago, and all the time I've lived in Eugene, I've been proud of the amazing work they've done. I went to high school and college here, as well as recently been living here. Not everyone in crisis should have a police response, and Cahoots shows that a better world and better system is possible. I helped get Friends of Cahoots started in April of this year when White Bird and the City of Eugene ended their contract. April 8th, and since April, we've seen a lot more burden on community partners. It's harder when more of the folks in crisis are going to the emergency department or end up in jail. Cahoots is preventative medicine. The lack of Cahoots is putting more stress and strain on our community for every day that Cahoots isn't operational. Ask around. Just about everybody in this room has been touched by Cahoots workers. Whether it's needing service from them directly or seeing them help someone else in crisis, Cahoots is in the fabric of Eugene. We're seeing a spike in criminal trespass cases, which suggests that police are being used in situations where Cahoots could have been a better option. As we know, Cahoots is a model for mobile crisis response around the nation. Just a few days ago, the Democratic nominee for New York City listed Cahoots and Eugene as a model for public safety in their 24-hour mobile crisis response that we used to have. So Cahoots not only took care of us, but they did so with more empathy and for a lower cost than traditional police response. Some police-like service is necessary, but police response isn't the best tool for every job. Take wellness checks. Cahoots did 46% of all wellness checks. These wellness checks, crisis response, and mobile social service are right in Cahoots' wheelhouse. Cahoots also saved the city money. Cahoots responded to over 18% of all calls for service, but even if fully funded, Cahoots only cost 3% of the police department's annual budget. Eugene City Council, to their credit, also understands the value of Cahoots and passed a resolution along with this year's city budget, promising to identify $2.2 million in funding sources and identify a plan by the end of October to bring back Cahoots-like services. The biggest worry I have about getting Cahoots back in Eugene is that if the city doesn't act fast to issue an RFP, or request for proposal, which is the first step in issuing a contract, the Cahoots workers that were let go by Whitebird may need to move on to find other work. Cahoots workers have formed a nonprofit called Willamette Valley Crisis Care, WVCC, and I've been proud to help them with my accounting background. Dandy will speak to the details of WVCC a lot more soon. I'm going to close out with a plea to the Eugene City Councilors now. Willamette Valley Crisis Care, composed of Cahoots workers, is the best path towards getting Cahoots service back in our town. They've got the people, they've got the knowledge, skills, and experience. Please issue an RFP soon so we can get Cahoots back, helping out on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. There we go. I would like to start by sharing with you all a little bit about my journey and what the work means to me. After being a crisis worker just a few months shy of a decade, I wrote a post the day after the vans went down, and I'd like to read a little bit of it to you. Well, I just worked my last overnight shift in Eugene. It feels unbelievably, unbearably sad. As a social worker, I'm feeling the pain of my fellow mental health community as they scramble to build new safety plans. I'm anxious because last night, over and over again, it felt unethical to not be able to say the thing Cahoots always gets to say. You can always call us back out. You can always lean into your community. We are here 24/7. It doesn't need to be this way. The majority of my colleagues, people who have my respect and admiration, who I ride with at night and trust with my life, are without jobs as of Monday. Highly skilled in both roles and with the wisdom of thousands of calls in their care lenses, cross-trained Cahootans have grit, passion, and consider this job both a career and a highly dynamic, deeply meaningful connection to the community. They bear witness, nourish strength, reduce harm, and tend to people's wounds of all kinds. That post was written 5 months ago, as Jacob said, and I would quickly learn that I was not alone in feeling this way. This was the beginning of our vision and the first step to how WVCC came to be. I want to express gratitude for this community, the community of Eugene. I got to personally witness, along with my colleagues, the rallying, this remarkable civic engagement in those important city council and budget committee sessions, and to the city leadership for making space to hear all of us out while this community used its voice to ask that we reinvest in Cahoots-like services. It has been a common shared value in Eugene, and I appreciate that so much. The clear intention, the ask was made and answered. That's the journey that's turned into Willamette Valley Crisis Care, and I don't think we would be here without that, so I just really want to name that and say thank you. In this time in the world, in our own community, it feels really good to have this tangible goal and the space to talk about it here. You showed us that you want the same thing that we offer, and that's why we get to stand here before you with this amazing organization that's ready to serve your needs. Before we hear from Dandy, who's so excited to tell you all about what we've been up to, I want to take a few minutes to talk about a couple of common themes that we've been asked about. One question we get over and over again is, what makes Cahoots-like services different from the county mobile crisis team? In my mind, there are 4 things. The first is no barriers. What makes us special is a lack of barriers. Cahoots-like services responds to everyone in the community, regardless of age, relationship to substances, or physical health status. Cahoots-like services have a scope driven by a goal to be everywhere police don't need to be, whereas the federally funded county team has an insurance-driven scope, or the decision to respond to a call is based on the capacity to be able to bill insurance for the service. What you see in the field is a result of decisions filtered through very different lenses. Cahoots-like services have a much wider scope for this reason. Medical care, working with youth, responding to third-party welfare checks, delivering death notifications, interacting with really intoxicated folks. These are all calls that the county service does not provide, and while the services they do provide are a great help, it's only a small piece of the pie that represents the calls that are possible to respond to instead of police. So no barriers, that's one. The second one is ease of access. Cahoots-like services were integrated into 911 comms down at 2nd and Chambers, and you could reach them by calling into non-emergency or 911. That allows for smoother, safer communication with dispatch, more fluidity between EMS and EPD partners, and less middlemen for the community members who call in to request that support. Rather than a call center, people needing support get a call taker in dispatch who can immediately make a decision and send a team. Also super important, when you want to look at the bigger picture, when you want to see your community safety landscape, a large piece of the system won't be missing. It's all integrated. The third thing is targeted to serve our city. The federally funded program is for all of Lane County, which means it's affected by a varying degree of community needs and wants from very different communities, and that is so incredibly important. Oak Ridge, Mapleton, and so many more smaller communities need this support. There's so much need in the county, and everyone deserves an alternative response. WVCC's Cahoots-like service will be focused on the needs of this community here in Eugene. This is what you have asked for loud and clear, your own program that amplifies and centers your needs. The fourth thing that I want to explore with you all, and the final difference, is our relationship to law enforcement. We have worked with some very smart researchers from our own community at the University of Oregon. They explored the concept of the overlapping mandate to generate an accurate reflection of the amount of calls that Cahoots diverts from EPD. The overlapping mandate represents the calls that could go to either police or Cahoots. What I mean by that is they are not calls where crimes are in progress, or on the other side of the coin, are not calls where people are, for instance, searching for a resource. They are those calls in the middle, calls that are urgent and deserve a response and will get a response from someone. I'll give you an example and talk about a call I was on that my partner and I were sent to because we were close to the location of the call and it was a very busy night for police. A lights and sirens kind of night. The call came in to the non-emergency line as a dispute. A woman was calling from her home where she lives with several family members. She was asking for support for her husband who had made suicidal statements and was agitated. She reported that he had no history of violence and that he has a mental illness which he takes medication for and was having an episode she was concerned could be psychotic and involved him trying to leave the location in an escalated state. He had raised a fist in her direction and shoved some furniture in front of their small child, a child who had just returned to live with them. She was proud to have taken the steps to earn custody of him, and she was scared. We called her while en route to their home, and we asked if she thought he'd be willing to talk to Cahoots, and we learned that he was. That he had interacted with Cahoots in the past and was not very comfortable talking to law enforcement. We asked if we could meet him outside for scene safety, and he gave his keys to his wife and told her he would wait for us on the tailgate of his pickup truck. Sure enough, he was there, and we worked together to de-escalate, identified what he was feeling and needing, and made some space for him to process the things that were happening to him. He spoke of long hours at work, the stress of parenting, the care needed for his marriage, the responsibilities that come with intergenerational living, all against the backdrop of his mental illness, manifesting at times in ugly whispers and voices with cruel messages about his self-worth. And we listened and validated, and we asked what things could shift to be more supportive. We identified a plan to connect with his psychiatrist to adjust his medication, and then we invited his wife to join the conversation, which we mediated. We did some skill building around not blocking exits when people are angry, and she got to establish some boundaries with him. They got to have safe space that was completely dedicated to them finding a way to support each other's stated needs, be accountable to one another and their child, and commit to a plan of safety for the future, including an invitation to engage with us again if they needed more support. Officers came by toward the end of the call, and we were able to present the situation, assist each half of the couple in speaking privately with officers, and they assessed the situation from their lens, thanked us for our collaboration, and sped off to the next call. This could have been dispatched to police, and it would have been a very different response based on the mission, focus, and tools. The outcome could have been different. I appreciate you all for taking the time to hear that story because it represents the calls that within the overlapping mandate, and according to the work of Professor Rory Rolfs and her team, Cahoots diverted 45% of those calls from police when they were in service between 2016 and 2020. Now I want you to imagine that this was your family. What would you want?
Thank you so much, Laurel and Jacob. My name is Dandy, and I'm a former Cahoots worker and co-founder of Willamette Valley Crisis Care. I am incredibly proud to be working on this project alongside 3 other former Cahoots workers. Together, we have nearly 50 years of combined experience in mobile alternative response. When services ended in April, we gathered ourselves, dusted off, and started our own worker-led, pro-labor nonprofit. The amount of work that we've pulled off in just a few short months is staggering. I'm here today to tell you about the progress of our organization and announce that Willamette Valley Crisis Care stands equipped and ready to bid on an alternative response RFP when invited to apply by the City of Eugene. We now have the operational capacity and stand ready to offer a high-quality public safety program that is worth the city's investment. Something very important to the 4 of us is that we create an organization that has diverse revenue so we can sustain our direct service program without interruption and offer cost recovery to the City of Eugene. We want to be an affordable program that first responders, business owners, emergency room workers, librarians, and residents of Eugene can count on as a trustworthy and timely alternative public safety response. In pursuit of those funding streams, we have developed 2 other branches to our organization. In addition to direct service, Willamette Valley Crisis Care is developing a technical assistance and training program that will allow us to contract with other municipalities and organizations nationwide to share our mobile integrated health model. We are subject matter experts, and 2 of our founders currently offer deflection training for first responders statewide. To help us develop and expand upon these tools, we have entered a partnership with Task's Center for Health and Justice. This national organization connects research, practice, and policy to promote a healthier, safer, and more just society. Their focus on community-based treatment and diversion from jails and hospitals aligns with our values, and we are excited that work is already underway with them. For our 3rd branch, we are developing the groundwork for a national research hub that features the work of University of Oregon faculty Rory Rolfs, Claire Herbert, Nathan Burton, and John Davis. These folks have poured through publicly available call data and are close to publishing a manuscript reporting that Cahoots handled 18% of total calls to police in Eugene. Of the welfare checks, those calls that are within the scope of both police and Cahoots, that's the overlapping mandate, Cahoots handled 45%. For example of these calls, a mother concerned about her daughter's self-harming, a patient who didn't show up for dialysis, someone you saw who looked cold on the street. These are not calls handled by Lane County, who only respond to people who call on behalf of themselves. We're so grateful for Lane County's services, but we need more options, not less. In addition to the University of Oregon project, we also received a contract from the Alliance for Safety and Justice to analyze the mobile crisis landscape and their current programs operating in 5 cities, Jackson, Miami, Tucson, Cleveland, and Austin, as part of their Scaling Safety project. This is the first step in identifying local organizations ASJ will partner with and build out to fund community crisis programs and identify gaps where technical advisory support would be helpful. At Willamette Valley Crisis Care, we know that relationships are everything. We take a lot of pride in our connections with our community partners because we value collaboration and want to facilitate safe and effective transfers of care for our clients. Our community members deserve the right response at the right time and connection to the right service. Our program has the ability to transport to any staffed service and truly offers the best remedy to divert folks from jail or the hospital. We are eager to get moving with establishing working partnerships with local emergency shelter, crisis respite, and rapid treatment access providers. In addition to our strong relationships in the community, Operationally, we are well positioned to bid on an RFP. We have a quote in hand from a comprehensive insurer. We have an executive director identified and ready to hire. We have established our employee policies and our operational procedures. We have a clinical director. We have a medical director. We have a development team that has applied for a few grants and launched a fundraising campaign. Most importantly, we have an incredible board of directors and fiscal sponsorship from the Trauma Healing Project while we wait approval of our 501c3. Most importantly, we have a workforce of laid-off Cahoots workers standing by, credentialed, and ready to be back on the vans. We've raised $35,000 through grassroots fundraising in just 3 weeks, including a generous gift of $10,000 from the AFSCME Oregon Health Authority Physicians Union. Thank you so much. We are preparing to launch a capacity building campaign next. We are on the cusp of revealing our new logo. We're very excited, and also excited to announce a naming contest for our new program. If you'd like to hear more details, you can visit our website, willamettevalleycrisiscare.org, and subscribe to our mailing list to be one of the first people to view our new logo and participate in naming the next Cahoots-like service. We are ready to get back on the van. We hear from our friends in the emergency room, on the crisis line, and in dispatch about the people in our community who are upset by not being able to request welfare checks from someone other than the police when their loved ones are in distress. I have one person in particular who I still think about, an elderly man with dementia who was not able to care for himself but still able to refuse services. We checked on him daily during his period of decline, making sure he was eating and communicating with senior and disabled services over our concerns of his medication management and unsanitary conditions in the house. Cahoots used to bridge people during this time of decline, and our services ended before he got to safety, and I don't know what happened to him. In 35 years of service and hundreds of thousands of calls, it weighs on us to not know how these gaps are being filled now. We know the city budget is constrained, but the community has expressed a commitment to a proven solution that is cost-effective and life-saving. Those are the services we're prepared to bring back. The cumulative stress of our community cannot be measured, but will have ripple effects years into the future. City Council, our workers, and the community can't wait any longer. We are ready.
Very encouraging stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll begin our Q&A quite soon, but first, a special thank you to our award-winning public radio station, KLCC, for airing City Club programs on Mondays at 7 p.m. In Eugene, they broadcast on 89.7 FM. For those listening at home or in the car right now, your household is one of several thousand tuning into City Club on KLCC. We are truly honored to have you. You can also find all recent City Club programs archived at klcc.org, as well as on our YouTube channel and the City Club of Eugene podcast. We'll have a short break, and I assume we'll have actually a good deal of time to answer plenty of questions, so get those questions churning in your minds, and we will return for questions in a few minutes. Thanks.
waiting for the other two speakers. Sorry, okay. Oh. Welcome back, everyone. We are ready to start our Q&A. We have our first speaker, first questioner, U of O researcher Nathan Burton. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm a research scientist at the University of Oregon, and I've been studying the Cahoots model for 2 years now. So my question pertains to something that we generally call the halo effect. In particular, we found evidence that even call types that are traditionally handled by the police can be reduced by the mere presence of Cahoots. So I was just wondering, could you speak to your experience as Cahoots workers into why we might see this effect in our research?
Thank you for that question. And I also really appreciate the work of research, and my brain doesn't work that way, and I can speak very qualitatively to that just by recognizing that when we are out and about, we're able to meet the needs of a lot of people sort of before, you know, the goal is to meet with someone before they walk into the roadway. The goal is to talk with someone who's thinking about harming themselves and then they don't. So kind of over and over again, I see that preventative lens in the work that we do. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having someone to call that can help you with some basic needs items or logistical support or connection to resources can prevent them from getting to that point of being escalated because they don't have another option but to commit a crime. And so it's, you know, it's not just self-harm and suicide we're talking about here. We're also talking about people's basic needs and basic humanity being witnessed. A lot of our work is witness. We're just being present for them and taking that time, which police don't have. They are fighting crimes. And so I truly believe that Cahoots is effective in crime prevention because we can intervene before people get to that point of desperation.
This ties into one of the things I was saying before about how Cahoots is preventative medicine, but for crisis response. You know, by having Cahoots as an option, it mitigates, a situation developing into something where police response or something more serious may need to occur. So I think that's one of the many benefits that Cahoots provides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Johnson, City Club member. Thank you all so much for this program. You answered so many questions that have been lurking in the back of my mind, so I just really appreciate it. City Club is so cool. Two questions I have that I think are both probably pretty quick ones. Number one, you talked about the difference between Lane County and Cahoots model. One of the points was that it would just serve Eugene and not the whole county. So I'm wondering about Springfield, if Cahoots goes into Springfield at all or would in a new model. And then you talked about the RFP from the city. Is there a timeline on that, on when they would put RFP forward?
So I can speak to the second one right away. So the RFP timeline, when the budget committee passed a recommendation, it's that the city manager would investigate how the alternative response program with Cahoots-like services could be provided and identify potential sources of funding for approximately $2.2 million annually, including potentially reallocating existing community safety payroll tax funds, and bring the results back before the end of October. Now, we definitely want to have those results back and the RFP issued sooner rather than later, because a lot of the folks with the knowledge and experience, you know, they need to eat. So having funding secured so they'll stay in the area and not move on to other jobs is crucial. So sooner the better, but City Council has promised before the end of October. So thank you.
While we're focusing right now on Eugene, the community that does not have Cahoots-like services, I do appreciate the question about Springfield. Cahoots program, Whitebird Clinic's Cahoots program is currently running in Springfield. It'll be 10 years this year in Springfield, which blows my mind because that's right when I started. Having worked in both cities quite a bit, they're very different communities, equally special in their own way, and we absolutely would intend to bid on an RFP in Springfield should the opportunity come.
Bill Kleppinger, longtime on and off City Club member. Thank you guys for what you're doing. Our community needs you. I've got kind of a tough question though. Number one, why did the City of Eugene not fund Cahoots? And I've heard that there was some conflict with Eugene Police Department and what they were doing. And if so, has that been resolved as you go forward?
So there wasn't a conflict per se between, this is as I understand it as an outside observer, between the Cahoots program and the Eugene Police Department. My understanding is that the Cahoots contract that the city had with Whitebird was under the police department, but then they moved it to be under the emergency response department instead. So it wouldn't say that there was a conflict between Cahoots and the police. And the first question was, why did Cahoots end? So the contract ended sort of mutually agreed upon on both between Whitebird and the City of Eugene. The City of Eugene paid for about 40% of Cahoots services in Eugene, with the rest of it being filled by grants and other sources. Those dried up, and when the City of Eugene was facing a budget crisis, proposed scaling back on Cahoots, and in response, Whitebird said that that wouldn't be able to work, and they canceled the contract right then. I don't know the details of why Whitebird decided to just end the program right then, but that's how I understand it as an outsider. Do you have any other perspective on that?
Thank you.
The 40% of the budget has come up a lot. Why did the city only fund 40% of the budget? I am definitely not a budget negotiator, but I can say the Springfield budget, or the Springfield contribution to their budget, is much higher. So I imagine that those were conversations had in budget negotiations between Whitebird Clinic and the City of Eugene.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Conley, former City Club member and occasional drop-in. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I do wish someone was here from the city, but I understand they're invited sometimes and don't show up. Is that what happened? Does anybody know?
Just for clarification, no, this program was not planned with City of Eugene participation. It's just to hear from the community advocacy group and the former employees of Cahoots. It was like a last-minute program due to a cancellation. So we appreciate them being available to be here with us today, but the city did not decline participation.
They did decline or did not?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not.
Well, I appreciate all three of you being here, but mostly what I heard I already knew, and I wanted to hear the contra argument. That's always nice to have. The last speaker took my question, what happened, and I think you did a nice job of answering. So I'm just going to tell a really quick story, because as you said, many people, maybe everybody here, has a story about Cahoots, but I want to tell mine. It's really short. So a number of years ago, a young woman was running a daycare center in her home, been doing a wonderful job, and sadly, she had a SIDS death. and it was horrific. Horrific, and I mean, nothing horrific happened, except the baby died, of course, but there were police officers, there were fire people, there were EMS people. It was a madhouse, and lo and behold, Cahoots showed up. And you know what they did? They took all those children out to the backyard, and they played with them. And they called every parent, told them what happened, asked them to come and get their child. And what a wonderful thing to have happened, because the young woman who ran the place was almost hysterical, in tears. It was chaotic, it was awful. I was there, I saw it. And Cahoots did that one small thing that made such a huge difference. And to this day, I have a warm part in my heart for them. And I want them to come back. I want them to do those kinds of community things that police officers don't have the time to do. And they're paid, police officers are paid so much more. Let's get Cahoots back, and let's pay them what they're worth, because they're worth so much to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Hura, President and City Club member since 2019. I also wanted to give a quick plug for next week's program on the City of Eugene budget process. We will have City Councilor Mike Clark, City of Eugene Budget Committee member Ty Pruce-Zimmerman, and also Brittany Quick-Warner from the CEO of the Eugene Chamber of Commerce. But I also have a question to share from the online viewers. We've got about 20 people watching on YouTube, which is great. Dylan C. wants to know, why can't the money to support Cahoots come out of the police budget, since Cahoots is so helpful to EPD?
That is absolutely a possibility. You know, the community safety payroll tax was funded in part, was suggested and passed in part as a way to provide support for community safety, including Cahoots as well as police and youth services and a bunch of other options. And none of that funding ended up going directly to Cahoots. Well, a small amount, as you'll notice in the Budget Committee recommendation, that's one of the areas that they're considering, is reallocating existing community safety payroll tax funds. So there's nothing preventing the City of Eugene from considering that option, and I hope they consider it.
Thank you. We have time for a few more questions, so please line up.
Hi, my name's Alexander. I'm with Lane County Public Health in a role of overdose prevention. And my Cahoots ride-alongs have been forever inspirational. So Cahoots had a presence in certain particular parts of our town, and Cahoots distributed naloxone, right, freely. As we know that overdoses are still a part of a crisis in our community, I'm hearing reports that since the end of Cahoots in downtown Eugene and its presence up River Road and up 99, that overdoses in those communities are increasing. So the curiosity is, would the model that we are hoping to see you bring back still remain, those pieces of the pie, which is that presence in the community, that passive presence, and that ability to work with folks that are high risk for overdose?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I don't know those numbers, but you know, a lot of our welfare checks that we do are like, someone's slumped over in a funny position and we don't know if they're breathing or not. And we would respond to those calls with high priority. We would prioritize those calls. Most of the time it was someone just sleeping, but every once in a while it was someone overdosing, and we were able to provide emergency response with our medic to get them breathing again. And we would often have them breathing again by the time EMS arrived. And so, you know, those are the type of calls that police aren't necessarily, or EMS aren't necessarily going to prioritize, because more often than not, it's someone just sleeping. And those kind of calls come in all the time, multiple times a day. And so I'm not surprised at all that that's a trend.
We'll take more questions from the audience. I would like to ask a question to our panel. Through the conversation since the elimination of the Cahoots services in Eugene, some people have presented alternative response as if it's in opposition to police. So how do you envision the future of this kind of service? Is it a complement? Is it an alternative? Is it something that cannot be reconciled with a police response? What's your take?
Just to be clear, we are asking to be where we were on Station 2, responding within the non-emergency system alongside or instead of police. I know that our partners in the field, dispatchers, officers, people we see all the time when we're working, are part of kind of an overtime culture. They're unionized workers. You're not going to see them coming out to say, like, go Cahoots. So people do often wonder about our relationships in the field, but I speak with the authority of a Cahoots worker that those relationships are sound. We need each other. We appreciate one another in the field. Officers are glad to go and do their job when we arrive. They're glad to see us when they ask for us. And when we need them, they come running really, really fast. So, oh yeah.
Were you done? Yeah. In 2020, we got thrown into the national spotlight very unexpectedly and very much became a political rift. But our experience in the field is that we are working alongside officers every day. They are our coworkers and collaborators. And so that was a difficult time for us because it painted us in a picture that we didn't necessarily feel was accurate. And it was a really uncomfortable to come out and say anything publicly because we did not want to damage those relationships. Relationships with the police and the fire department are extremely important to us, and we fully intend to maintain those connections and connections with Lane County. Like, we are all about collaboration. There is more than enough room out there. The call volume has been overwhelming in the last few years, especially overwhelming. Like, we are glad to have Lane County. We absolutely want to continue participating fully in the public safety landscape.
And just one more note about the us, them. I think the most objective view of that is just they're two very different jobs, y'all. Like, officers are meant to stand a certain way. They have certain tools. They have a certain lens that they're operating from, and ours is very, very different. We lean in doorways and wear hoodies, and our goals are different from one another. So I think that is like the main difference.
Thank you. We have time for 2 or 3 more questions. So,
I'm Jerry Smith, a longtime member. I was a social worker in the 1960s in California. The largest amount of money that came was federal money. The county got matched money from the state and their own taxes. Then there was this awful development called Ronald Reagan, who was the modern day Trump, greedy rich people who ended the kind of services that you and social workers provide to the community to put the money in their own pocket and tax breaks. And what kept me going for many, many years was I found the Grantsmanship Training Center, and I just wrote my own grants, formed my own agencies, always for different groups. The largest I did was for seniors and the mentally ill, and when tolerance for them ran out, I just did another one. and I'm encouraging you to find a good way to deal with the changing financing sources.
Thank you for sharing that.
We have one more question from online. Sunny C wants to know, what can the community do to make sure Cahoots can get funding back?
Sure. So some of the things that you can do to help get Cahoots back is to ask the city council to issue an RFP quickly. Yeah, September 24th is the next opportunity for public comment. I know that a lot of city councilors are eager as well, so that just helps them know that that the community stands behind and really wants Cahoots back in our community. If you want to help directly financially, I know that Willamette Valley CrisisCare.org has a way to donate. So that's another way to help, and just tell people about Cahoots. It's a fantastic system, and we want Cahoots-like services are what we need back in the community. Thank you.
And help us pick a name.
Oh,
We need help picking a name.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So we do need help picking a fun name, and we also have, we'll be releasing the new logo, which is delightful, and if we weren't on the radio, we'd be showing it to you right now. Thank you.
Thank you all for your questions. That is all the time we had, and thank our panelists for being here and speak on this topic today. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Fabio, for coordinating such a wonderful program, and all of you for being here. Yeah, we might have time for one or two more questions. 8 minutes, really. So I can popcorn it. Actually, we have Alan Torres.
Hi. You've met me before, Alan Torres, Register Guard reporter. I didn't want to take, Alan Torres, Register Guard reporter. I didn't want to take a spot from anyone else since I have access to you elsewhere, but the line dried up. So I guess I was hoping Dandy could elaborate more on where things are now. I think you mentioned 5 van workers ready to go, correct me on whatever the correct number is, and just, I guess, what is still needed. Is there anything needed besides the RFP from the city?
No, we need the RFP, and we need to apply for it. Like, that's the next step. And knowing what's in the RFP obviously would be helpful. But we have a pretty good idea of what the requirements are going to be in terms of insurance, just based on our history with working with Cahoots. We have 14 people on our fly list, 14 former Cahoots workers. That number is dropping every day. So the sooner we get an RFP, the better off we're going to be. We have such precious experience from these people that we cannot replace. It will be increasingly difficult to train up new workers without those seasoned Cahoots workers that are able to support us in training up new people. And so a huge part of our training is actually vetting people to see if they're a good fit. And we cannot replace these people easily. We have a really special group, and it's imperative that we get that RFP out as soon as possible so we can offer them jobs and they don't need to move along to find something else.
That's one of the things that I'm particularly worried about, because nationally, Cahoots is still held up as a model. In New York City, the Democratic nominee for mayor, Zoran Mamdani, was just speaking about how they want to implement a system that's just like the Eugene system, 24-hour coverage, non-emergency response line, and we're worried about people being like, "Oh, I could move to New York City," The training that we've that has been done with these Cahoots workers, I really don't want to see Eugene losing that. We want Cahoots back on the streets as soon as we can, and the city really wants it, and the people of the city really want it. So let's do it.
How many people were there before the layoffs?
I believe we had 24 on our staff. And I just want to caution around numbers because we are not able to offer people job offers right now. It's unfair for us to ask them to wait in the wings. I'm writing letters of reference all the time, and I'll try to court folks back, but people need to live their lives, and this is their best, favorite, most passionate job. But I don't want to use numbers because it's not fair for us to be asking them to wait, and it's not appropriate. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Eric Jura, and I'm a City Club member. Thanks for a great presentation, very informative. And I think maybe, actually, Jacob, it just sort of answered my question, but I'll ask it anyway. When cities are creating their budgets, and particularly when in times of distress when they're cutting rather than adding or even maintaining, they make a list of priorities, and one of the things that's at the top of the list is police, fire, and emergency medical services, and that's one of the core jobs of a city. Not the only one, but it is core. And I guess I would ask, and you talked about other cities in addition to New York City and so forth. So are there places where Cahoots is considered as important to the community and to cities on a par with those other public safety kinds of things?
Well, maybe I should have let Laurel keep the microphone, but across the country, there have been many states, many communities in the wake of 2020 and discussions about the role of police in society that have considered, well, wait a minute, Cahoots is so effective at dealing with wellness checks and crisis response that maybe this is a more effective way, instead of having a police response to all these things. I would say that when cities are considering their budgets, Cahoots is a good way to save money. When we're talking, sending a big police response to, a nonviolent, wellness checks, a lot of times those just don't get answered, or it's a relatively expensive way to deal with that situation. So I would consider Cahoots as a fantastic way for cities to consider saving money overall, rather than it being an extra bonus. Thank you.
I might just add, we have Senator Wyden to thank for the Cahoots Act, and so there have been, these federally funded programs across the nation. A crisis continuum is being built. Different states are adopting different models of crisis response. I believe there are just over 100 programs that are similar to the Cahoots-like services that we want to provide, and many based out of that Cahoots model that we have Wiper Clinic to thank for. And I think the other thing I just wanted to mention is as the crisis continuum is forming in that intercept zero space of where we meet folks in the field, we're going to see a lot of burgeoning new programs, and we're going to see a lot of really interesting collaboration. If you want more information about this, I encourage you to go to AMSA, the Alternative Mobile Services Association, founded by Jason Renaud up in Portland. They do an excellent job helping incubate programs, helping support community, bringing crisis programs together to learn and grow.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing that, at least for me, Cahoots is the heart and soul of Eugene. This is such a precious program that's been here for so long. It has shaped the fabric of our home, and we cannot afford to depend on federally funded programs, billable services, to replace this kind of program. It's invaluable, and it is important to fund it as a city.
I believe our last question can go to Joel Corin, the chair of our program committee. Joel, what you got?
That's a good question. You spoke about the alternative funding that you're going to do in addition to direct service, the consulting and the training. Can you speak a little bit more about that and give us what percentage of your budget you anticipate these other services can provide?
It's a little hard to estimate percentages exactly, but we anticipate it could be a significant funding stream. I think there's a lot of demand out there for different cities who are trying to stand up their own programs. And then just individual agencies like first responders, dispatchers, you know, employees on alternative response vehicles. So we can create these modules that will sort of improve our business model and allow us to have that alternative income. And we do anticipate the overhead cost to be high initially, but then once we get our technical assistance materials developed, you know, that will start getting in contracts and the overhead expenses will drop. And so we anticipate initially that we'll have to invest some money and get some grants to fund that. But then once those materials are established and we, you know, get our name out there as being able to offer this, we anticipate that to be a significant funding stream for us.
I also just want to mention, you know, things are fluid and can always change. We do anticipate being part of legislative processes. We are going to advocate for block funding. We're going to advocate for other ways that the federal funding can be provided. We want all of these programs to be successful. We want them all to flourish and be that third arm of public safety.
But one thing I do want to emphasize is that I don't want us in a situation where we are, you know, the city's paying for a portion of the basic Cahoots services, and if that funding dries up, you know, which is what seems to have happened with Whitebird, we lost Cahoots services. You know, we don't do that with police. We don't do that with fire or EMS. We don't rely on, the city funds the basic amount, and then we get the basic service, and everything else is added on top. You know? That's how we should fund Cahoots. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. Please join me in thanking Dandy Kolauer, Laurel Lisovskis, and Jacob True. This has been our September 12th, 2025 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. We'll be back here next week at Wow Hall on Friday, September 19th at noon. That program is called City of Eugene's Budget Process. It's sure to be a great forum, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and see you next time at the City Club of Eugene.